when talents gets discussed, people talk about individuals, and obviously you are not present in that, your leaders are present. So apart from your own leader, you need to have others also who actually understand you as an individual. Am I clear on this? Because this is a very important topic these days in organizations. And there is a model called PI model, which is stands for performance, image, and exposure. Exposure is about exposure is about 70%. Okay, your image is about 20%, and your performance is only about 10%. And that's a hard fact of life, right? And I personally don't subscribe to this model, but there are people who subscribe to this model, saying that how well you are connected in the organization, how many top people do you know, how well are you respected, so the whole thing about socializing, that's very important, very, very important, right? Okay. It might sound harsh, but trust me, that is the organizational reality these days. It is. I don't subscribe to it, but I will have to be in the same bandwagon till then I have to work and earn a living or make a living. And lastly but not the least, it's a brand that you create, by your own actions and gestures, and it is up to you whether you want to take it, whether you want to work on it, or you don't want to work on it. But if you are working in organizations, you will definitely need to create a brand for yourself. Right? What it is not, right? It's a laundry list, right? Just go through it. Something in these days is definitely not your presence in the social media, especially in organizations. Okay? This is nothing that you are entitled to because maybe you are a great worker and you have done whatever. If you have the skills, but if you don't have the attitude, then good for nothing. There has to be a balance of each and everything in an organization. It's not about power. So if you are in a leadership position, you can't be acting like an autocratic leader because I have the skill. I will treat people the way I want to. That doesn't work in this. It's a gift that someone can give you. Definitely not. And last but not the least is definitely not permanent. And it is as good as yesterday. So your previous performance, you can be happy about it, but if you are not able to work on that in the future, that's good for now. Right? Are you good? Yeah.
Will you re-explain the first point, promise?
So promise is, say for example, I, pawas, stand for my, stand for the integrity or the ethical value that I believe in. So if you come to me, you would expect me to be fair. So that fair as a word become my promise. So I will make sure that whatever suggestion or advice that I give you is going to be balanced and is going to give you the true perspective. Right? Is that okay? If it is getting too heavy, please let me know because
Yeah, right.
A bit. Thanks. Okay. Now I talked about the process, right? How do you continuously develop yourself in an organization? And as everyone has been talking, that self-help, right? Even in organizations, people will show you directions. People will advise you, but at the end of the day, you do need to work on your own. If you need to find resources, you need to go and get them. They are not going to come to you. Okay. Similarly, you need to define your destination, where you want to be. It could be a short-term destination, it could be a long-term destination. Right? Not necessarily, someone asked me the other day that in an interview, many times interviewers ask, what is a 5-year plan or what's a 6-year plan? I think those questions are slightly outdated these days. Someone who does ask that, you need to be very clear that I am just starting my career. Okay? How the career shapes up, that only time will tell. But I as an individual, whatever I am doing, will try and just to excel in that. So that could be a 5-year plan. Okay? But a 10-year plan could be more concrete, more strategic, right? In terms of saying, okay, 10 years down the line, I want to be at a at a general management position, managing a key product line, something like that. But 2 or 3 years, please be very direct in the interviews rather than giving a very global kind of an answer, because interviewers will catch you. Okay. Leverage your points of difference. So again, coming back to know what your strengths are. You don't have to just talk about your weakness all the time, right? Know what your strengths are, and then see that how you can use or optimize those strengths to overcome the opportunities. Right? And one mistake I've seen many times people doing in interviews is that they will start talking about their weakness first and then about strengths. Why do you do that? Start with your strengths first. Give a laundry list of 10 strengths and then talk about weakness as well. But start with your strengths, and then talk about the weaknesses. Develop a narrative. So what I mean by narrative is that when you start an interview, or when you work in organizations, you need to be clear as to who you are. So you can say that, hi, I'm pawas. I'm HR graduate working for 5 years. I've worked in organizations like from IT sector to telecom sector to financial sector. So develop a narrative. What is the punchline? What's your headline? Right? Okay. Is this clear? Yeah. Is it not simple? Yes. Okay. And then reintroduce yourself. So the whole thing about learning, all these things will change in life. They are not going to remain permanent throughout, right? So every year you should spend some time making sure that are you following your destination? Are you reinventing yourself? Are you identifying what your strengths are? Because every year as you move, you will keep on having more strengths, right? What your strengths were in 2010 or 2011, they definitely will not be 2011. You will further develop on them. Some of the weaknesses will be moved to strengths, and there will be new weaknesses that will come up. Right? And last but not least, prove your worth. So whatever you are doing, in whatever field, make sure that you give your 100%. Because at the end of the day, all talking does not just result in, or all the self-praise does not result in any kind of output. It's good for nothing. So whatever you talk, make sure that you deliver on that as well. Right? So I'll give you an example. Dr. Chaturvedi was sharing with me that he thought of a conference, and JD was the one who was adamant and he had to do it. So I think from a thought to delivery, that's very important. The thought is great, but if it is not delivered, it is good for nothing. Right? Anything on that? Are you good so far? Difficult to नहीं simple है ना? Now this is the leadership model, and again I'll not spend too much time, but when we look at leaders or when we look at individuals in the organization, what are those 2 or 3 or 4 things that we look at in an individual? One is in terms of people. So how do you manage people? Okay, do you have followers in the organization? Right? Can you guide people? Because at the end of the day, I'm sure that each one of us has an anchor or someone whom we look up to, either in terms of the kind of money they're making or the kind of individual they are. Right? Each one of us has that. So do leaders in organization have ability to create that followership? That's very important. Okay? Then there's influence. So if you have a thought, if you want to implement it, do you have the courage, do you have the guts to go and stand in front of people and say that I'm going to work on this, please give me that. Okay? Either you need some financial assistance or you just need this support. So that's very important, because at the end of the day, in organizations, it is about influencing, because you would have ideas to execute, you would have to convey those ideas to your managers and then work on them. Right? And next is obviously ideas. So you have to continuously thinking, keep coming up with stuff that no one else has done before, right? And one simple thing that I do want to highlight is, suppose you are sitting in meetings in various organizations, it is important to have a point of view. And when I say point of view, it really means that so if people are talking about, say, social media, right? You should have a point of view whether it is good or bad. Okay? Because that's very important, because people do want to understand what are you thinking. Right? And then, as I said, execution is the key. So all this is great, but if you are not able to, ensure that the bottom line is solid, if you are not able to get profits, if your balance sheet is not in good health, then all the thing around leadership and the idea of the courage is all good for nothing. So, I think that's good so far? Is it okay? Now, some of the expectations I thought I would share with you from an organizational perspective. What do people look at? So, from a maturity, because that's very important in organizations when to start working, right? And maturity is not just about being there, agreeing with people. It is also about how do you understand the situation? Okay, how do you behave in certain situation? And are you among the many, or are you the one who will take a lead and get things done? Okay, so that's about maturity. Then efforts and results. So do you have the capability to take risks? Now again, you might say that, okay, how do you evaluate that in an interview? Trust me, it's more of a gut. And in an interview, most of the time, and that's what I have seen or experienced myself, and many leaders who have interviewed in the past have said that the interview makes a decision in the first 5 to 10 minutes. See, because at the end of the day, all your resume is on a piece of paper, right? First impression is very important. Okay? And we will come to that when as to what you do in environment when you have to, you end up struggling and stuff like that. But the first impression is very important. It is not important, how long your resume is. So many resumes I have seen that, if you have 2 years experience, your resume is 2 pages. If you have 3 years, 3 pages, and so on. Trust me, irrespective of the years of experience you have, your resume should not be more than 2 pages. If you are able to accommodate your resume in 1 page, great. Otherwise, no one has the time to read a 2-pager or a 10-pager resume. Unless you are applying for a research paper or you are doing a new rotation. You need to have a resume as short as possible. 1 page, great. If you are not able to accommodate 1 page, then maybe 2 pages, irrespective of your experience. Okay, and that's something that I have learned personally in life. My resume till the time I had about 6 years experience was about 7 pages. I said, what the hell am I doing? 7 pages of resume. If I have to write everything, then what will I tell the interviewer? Right? So it is important to have a very short and crisp resume, which clearly articulates what you as an individual stand for. So it could talk about your career objective, your key achievements in terms of awards, okay, and the companies you work for. And when you are saying companies you work for, just highlight the key stuff that you work on. Not that I was managing, say, a team of 10 people. That doesn't matter, right? Because that automatically the interviewer will find out when he's talking to you. Okay? Then flexibility. I think that's very important, right? Nowadays, organizations look at how flexible you are as an individual. Okay? And when I say flexibility, it also means your ability to stretch, your ability to adjust to changing business environments, right? Especially in the last 4 years, since 2008, there has been so much of change, especially in the workforce. Be it from a compensation perspective, be it from a organization increasing their efficiency, right? Because at the end of the day, everyone had a pressure on their bottom line. So flexibility is very important, right? And I've seen, especially freshers, and this is clearly for all the freshers in the room. And Dhruv was asking me yesterday, these नई कंपनियां काम बहुत कराती हैं. So it's like you have just started your career. Please go with an open mind. Flexibility, is great, but at the starting of your career, make sure that you learn the max. So if it requires stretching, do it. Okay? Because all this will pay in long term. But if you start with saying that, okay, मेरे को 9 घंटे काम करना, 9 घंटे बाद complete full stop, that doesn't work. Okay? And it's not that you can't be efficient in 9 hours. It's more of a thought process behind कि मुझे केवल 9 घंटे काम करना. हो सकता है आपको ना करने की जरूरत पड़े, but then ability to stretch and deliver, that's very important. acknowledge your position. So, counsel others, leave the door open behind you. So, this is all about taking feedback, right? All what we are doing here is understanding from each other, right? What are we doing well and what are we not doing well? How can we, improve our speaking ability? So, it's all about understanding how others perceive you, what is that they think of you, what is the feedback they will give you so that you can improve yourself. Trust me, it's not easy. Okay? Taking feedback from someone saying that powers you need to improve your articulation skill is definitely not easy for me. Okay? I may sound that it's very easy, but for me also to get feedback from a third person is not easy. But people who imbibe that or people who completely understand that are the ones who are successfully able to change themselves. Look and listen. I think the day one the exercise that we played with JP, shaking hands. We really did not listen, and I personally, we were not following as to how many people are shaking hands. I did not remember. Many of us did not. So that's very important. First listen and then react. If you're not listening and just reacting, then obviously there will be some issues. Leadership. Stand up and be counted. So if you are left behind, right, no one will look at you. But trust me, in organizations, you have to stand up. Don't think for a minute that just because you are not able to speak, or if you are issued with your vocabulary, or if you are issued with articulation, you will not get promoted. If you have a point to make, please stand up and make a point. In my own organization, I just found out, I think about 3 weeks back, we have a leadership program, where what we do is we actually pick up the top 10% of our employees and then take them to a leadership program. Okay? And this leadership program, we teach them about how to behave under various situations, how to work with leaders, and how to increase their emotional quotient, stuff like that. But there was one person whom I could identify was had speaking issues, but he was not open to come up and say that I have this issue. So it is important that in situations like these, stand up and make a point, even if you have an issue in terms of speaking, because others will at least acknowledge, saying that yes, there is a person who is unable to speak. We need to be sensitive and we need to listen to that individual. Most of the Indian organizations, which are large organizations and global organizations, they are realizing that it is important to give everyone their due recognition. Right? I think JP was sharing yesterday that how he stood up in Infosys and brought a sea change. It's definitely not easy. Only people who are able to stand up are able to make a difference. Right? Irrespective of whatever handicap you have. We might have a speaking issue, or I'm sure every other person, if you meet them, they will have something or the other in their pity to cry about. They would have problems saying that, I'm a great person, I can speak properly, but I don't get great ideas. Stuff like that. So that's around, what the organization expects. And trust me, these expectations are no different for a person who can speak properly. They are exactly the same. Because organizations will not compromise on stuff like this. They will definitely not. The reason that particular individual in my organization has been doing well is because he has been able to perform and meet the goals. We do not have a self-help group, but he has been doing well. I'm sure at the back of your mind you must be thinking about it. And when we asked everyone to speak, I could clearly see that he is one of us, and he is not able to speak up. So I'm looking for right occasion to go and speak now. So I'll do that and make it more comfortable. So that's on this, and I think I have just one more slide, and then we can do the more. You have to learn all this stuff. Okay, and there are no shortcuts to learning this. Trust me, you can't learn this by reading books. Okay, you definitely can't learn this. There are great books available as to how to be a manager in 1 minute. Okay, there how to be a great manager, how to be a great employee, and stuff like that. Trust me, you can't learn them by just reading books. Management education is great, but at that time practical, theory does not translate into practical experience. Very different. So I'll not go through this, you can just go through it and maybe we'll send a letter to everyone. But the reason I brought this up for, going to the next mock interview is that, not all the organizations right now, whether it is India or outside India, maybe we can talk about that. When they talk about diversity basically means is that, how different is the construct of the organization as to what kind of people there are, from which, which state, which area, how many male, how many female. So organizations have started talking about stuff like this, but majority of the stuff is, or majority of the work is still concentrated about male-female ratio in the organizations. Okay? But there are organizations who are progressive, who have started, being open and having communities within the organizations. Okay? It could be a self-help group in Infosys, or it could be, say for example, in Goldman Sachs, which is a leading financial company. They have a LGBT group, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transsexual. So they have a special group for them. So organizations, are being progressive, but I have still, or yet to come across the organization where they have taken communication as a theme, and they are working on that. So what you need to do is when you are looking for a job, pick up these organizations which are more sensitive towards the need of special people. And then apply in those organizations, because they will understand what is that you bring with you in terms of skills. Okay? And then